Welcome to Muscle Testing. Today, we're going to show you some amazing techniques to learn to harness the power of your own subconscious mind, to learn to change your life, to be healthy, to be well, to find the relationships of your happiness. How are we going to do this? We're going to work with the law of attraction. If you're watching this video, you probably have heard about the law of attraction before. There have been some popular DVDs, books on the subject. Basically, the law of attraction states that what we tend to think about and focus on, we will create in our life. And so if we have positive thoughts and positive focus, we will tend to create positive things in our life. On the other hand, if we have negative thoughts and we focus on negative things, we'll tend to create negative things. So many of the books and videos and seminars out there about positive thinking and the law of attraction give us a very simple premise that if we're able to change our thinking, we're able to change our lives. However, those of you who have taken some of these seminars and read the books and videos may be saying to yourself, you know what? Why didn't this work for me? Why is it that I'm thinking positive and I'm saying my affirmations and mantras and prayers every day and doing all my exercises, but it's not working? I'm still sick. I'm still poor. I'm still alone. The reason is that most coverage of the law of attraction is very simple and oversimplified. The law of attraction really responds to all of our thoughts and feelings, but we need to distinguish between what we call the conscious and the subconscious mind. And when we change our thinking, our thoughts in our head, we're only addressing the conscious mind. About 90% or more of our power in this world really comes out of what you might call the subconscious mind, the part of us that we're not aware of, that's invisible and off limits. And so if we talk about the law of attraction, if we really want to get the law of attraction to work for us, if you really want to heal, if you really want to become well, if you really want to find fulfilling, loving relationships, you need to not only change what's in your conscious mind, you also need to change what's in your subconscious mind. And so this is going to be all about working with your subconscious mind. We're going to show you the technique of muscle testing, which is the way you ask questions of your own subconscious mind to get simple yes or no answers. And this is a profoundly powerful tool to be able to look inside your own subconscious and ask questions and see what's. So the first thing we're going to start with is we're going to talk to you a little bit more about the subconscious mind. What exactly is the subconscious mind? Where does it come from? How can we work with it? After you've done that, the next section will be talking about the theory of muscle testing and the theory of how it works in the body. After that, we're going to show you 4 different methods of muscle testing. Some you can use alone, some you can use with a partner, some you can use either way. And they're going to show you how to do both the arm lever test. We're going to show you how to do the standing test. We're going to show you how to do the finger ring test and how to use a pendulum. After that, we're going to go over troubleshooting the muscle test, meaning what do you do if it isn't working? We'll give you a whole bunch of pointers and ways to troubleshoot the test so that no matter who you're working with, you'll be able to get a clear, accurate test every time. And then we're going to finish in the last section with next steps, how you might use this information to start real changes in your life. So without further ado, let's start talking about the subconscious mind. So as we referenced earlier, the subconscious mind is this part of us that is most of our power, most of our intelligence. Over 90% of what we create in our lives is not created out of the thoughts in our head. It's created out of our subconscious thoughts. But what exactly is the subconscious? If I want to know what somebody consciously thinks of something, that's very easy. I can just ask them a question. I can say, what do you think of this? They'll tell me the answer. But that only gives us the conscious perspective. If I want to know what's in someone's subconscious mind, that's not obvious. How do you ask questions of this invisible, off-limits, mysterious force that we have? How do you do that? It's not obvious. The answer is very interesting. If we look at the physical location of the conscious mind in the body, what doctors and scientists have discovered is that the conscious mind, our higher thought functions, are in the frontal lobe of the brain. That's where the higher thought functions of humans occur. And so what happens is if you give somebody a lobotomy operation, you're removing part of the frontal lobe of the brain. And people who have lobotomies often lose some of their ability to have these higher thought functions. And so the conscious mind is up in the frontal lobe of the brain. The next question, which is even more interesting, is where is the subconscious mind? Where is it in the body? Some people might say the heart. Some people might say the rest of the brain, but the answer is very interesting. The subconscious mind is, in fact, your entire body. And so every cell of our bodies constitutes the subconscious mind. You may have heard before the theory that every cell has intelligence, that every cell has memory. This is true. Every cell in our body has its own intelligence and its own memory. This is the subconscious mind. It is the body's intelligence. And so to demonstrate this, we actually have some clear. You may have heard stories of people who did organ transplants, and they will take on memories and personality characteristics of the donor. And this has happened many times and is well documented. And so what's happening there is that when you have an organ transplant, you are literally taking part of someone else's body and putting it into your own. And so this cellular intelligence, the body's intelligence, comes with that body part. And so it makes sense that if you have a transplant, you will sometimes be influenced by the donor's personality and memories, because they are literally stored within the physical tissue of the body. And I also believe that the reason why scientists and doctors have had a hard time figuring out exactly how memory works in the brain is because memory does not work only in the brain. Again, our bodies have their own intelligence. The cells have their own knowledge. And so our memories and our personality are not just stored in our brain. They're actually stored through the entire physical body. Pretty cool. And so when we do muscle testing, this is the way that we can ask questions of the body's intelligence. We can actually ask direct questions of our own subconscious mind, and it will give us answers. So really amazing. You could ask questions of your own subconscious mind. And so the next question might be, well, do we do this? What's muscle testing? That's what this is all about. We're going to talk to you a lot more about muscle testing and show you how to do it in a few minutes. But first, you may be wondering to yourself, how do things get into my subconscious mind? How do I get these cellular memories? There's actually 4 different answers to that. A subconscious mind actually picks up memories and influences in 4 different ways. These are what we call the 4 levels of the subconscious mind. The first level is what we call the core level. That's all our experiences from our current lifetime. And so things that happen to us when we're small children in particular affect the subconscious very powerfully. And so that's what we call the core level, is things that happen in our current lifetime. Beyond the core level, though, we have what's known as the genetic level. And so a lot of what's in our subconscious, what's in the body's cellular intelligence, are things that happen not in our lifetime, but they're things that happen to our ancestors. And so did you know that you carry memories of everything that happened to all of your ancestors back 7 generations in your subconscious? Your body's intelligence has all the genetic memories of your ancestors. And so many of the things that happen in our lives that we attract to us through the law of attraction, we are bringing to us from our subconscious from things that didn't even happen in our lifetime. They happened to our ancestors. And so if you have had a problem in your life, you haven't been able to get past an injury, an illness, money troubles, relationship problems, it's very likely that you may hold genetic memories in your subconscious that are contributing to that problem. The next way that we pick up things in our subconscious mind is what we call in general past life memories, that somehow, some way, we are picking up in our body's intelligence memories of events and experiences that happened in lifetimes other than our own and our ancestors. And so we call this past life memories. And you know, it's important to say, you don't have to believe in past lives to use muscle testing. It's really not important. All we need to do is recognize that there's some mechanism in the universe, which we don't fully understand, by which our body's cells can pick up memories and experiences from other lifetimes. And so a lot of the stuff in our subconscious we pick up from other lifetimes, the history. The last level is what we call the soul level, and just kind of all encompassing energy of our whole being, our life mission, the reason we came to Earth, things like that. And so if we look at these 4 different levels, the core level, the genetic level, the history level, and the soul level, the sum total of all these levels, of all these memories and experiences from this lifetime, from our ancestors, from other lifetimes, from our life mission, create our subconscious. And so it is this subconscious that works with the law of attraction to create most of the experiences in our lives. Again, over 90% of what you experience in your life is not created out of your conscious thoughts. It's created out of your subconscious. And so the law of attraction works primarily and most powerfully from your own subconscious. So whatever belief systems and experiences and programs we hold inside our own subconscious, we will tend to attract that experience in our life. Let me give you a simple example. Let's say that you're having trouble making money. You're smart, you work hard, you may have a good education, you're disciplined, but you just can't make money. Maybe that you are holding in your subconscious, in your cellular memory, in your body's intelligence, a belief system from another lifetime that tells you that you have to be poor to be close to God. And in this lifetime, as you are now, you may not believe that at all. You may not be religious. And if you are, you may say, hey, I don't believe that. I don't believe we have to be poor to be close to God. But guess what? It's in your subconscious. And so there is some part of you that's sending out this program to the universe, say, I need to be poor so I can be close to God. The law of attraction then responds to that subconscious belief and sends you a life where it's very difficult to make money. Because of course, to the higher part of you, you would rather be close to God than be rich. And so you may have no idea that this belief system or program is in your own body, in your own subconscious, and yet it's screwing up your life. And so what we're going to show you here today is how to start asking questions of your own subconscious to find out what's in there. What is causing these problems in your life? Because if you know what's in your subconscious that's creating the problems in your life, you can then use other techniques that go and change these belief systems in the subconscious to actually shift your life. So in this video today, we're not going to talk about that very much, but we are going to talk a lot about muscle testing, which is the way that we ask questions of our own body's intelligence. It's the way we find out what's in our own subconscious mind. Having the ability to ask questions of the subconscious mind is profoundly powerful. So next, we're going to show you 4 different ways of actually doing muscle testing. But before we get into the details of that, the technique I want to show you first called zipping the field, because it's going to look like there's a giant zipping bag that you're staying. The reason we do the zipping the field exercise is that there's many influences out in the world might interfere with your body and change the result of your muscle test. Other people's thoughts, electromagnetic radiation, influence your own mind. The zipping the field is we do basically temporarily balances your own energy. And so if you have been influenced by, say, walking by electrical equipment, just zipping the field will rebalance your energy and make it easier and faster for you to muscle test. And so I recommend that, especially when you're first starting, that you zip up your field before every test that you do. Once you've got deep tests and you're able to get a clear result from muscle testing, it's not necessary to zip before every test. You still probably want to zip every now and then. So zipping the field is pretty straightforward. You're going to take one of your hands, which one doesn't matter, the left or the right, out directly in front of the center line of your body. Put your hand down as low as it will go without bending over. So for most people, that's about where the root chakra is, or the chakra system. You're going to bring the center line of your body till your hand comes over your head. And then you bring your arm onto the side. And so you'll notice it looks like zipping a giant sleeping. And so that's why it's called zipping. How you hold your hand does not matter. And do it like this, as if you're holding a zipper. So the wrist position is not important. What is important is that you start down below the root chakra. So you have your arm out as low as it will go. It is important that you come directly up the center line of your body. And it's important that your arm comes over the top of your head before it comes up to the side. Don't do this. Don't cheat. Don't do some lazy thing like this. It'll work as well. And do it fast. Make sure you start at the root, up over the top of the head, and then off to the side. If you're familiar with the chakra system in the body, notice that we're igniting and touching the 7 chakras on the way up, finishing. The thing that's important to notice about the muscle of this in the field here is you don't want to leave your arm up here like this. You want to bring your arm off to the side and relax. You also do not want to zip up and bring your arm straight down. If you do that, you zip up and then you unzip. And so you just wasted your time. So it is important that when you zip from the bottom up over the top of your head in a straight line, and then bring your arm up to the side. And so now that you know how to zip, I'm going to introduce my assistant, Leanne, and we're going to show you guys 4 different ways that you can do muscle testing for yourself. Basically, there are 2 kinds of ways to do muscle testing. There's what's known as the strength test and the pendulum test. The first thing we're going to talk about is the strength-based test. When we do the strength-based test, we're testing the strength of the muscles. And so strength of the muscles will tell us whether or not the statements we're making are resonating true or false with our own subconscious. The reason is because our muscles are little electromagnetic machines. If you've ever been in a physical therapist office or been through rehabilitation after a surgery, you'll know that a physical therapist office is full of electrical equipment. Why? Because doctors and physical therapists understand that muscles run on electricity. And muscles have this interesting property that when you take a muscle and put it into a strong electrical magnetic field, that muscle actually becomes stronger. It can actually contract more strongly and do more work. On the flip side, if you take that same muscle and put it into a weaker magnetic field, it will actually become weaker and do less work. And so seeing how strong a muscle is, we can actually determine what the strength of the field is. Therefore, determine if what we're saying is true or false to the subconscious. Let me demonstrate now with my assistant to show a concrete example. Leanne, come and join us. So we're going to show you guys first what's known as the arm lever test. This is a very common test, probably the most popular kind of muscle test. And when we do the arm lever test, we're basically checking the strength of the muscles in the arm. And this is how it works. When Leanne holds out her arm and she says, I'm a woman. I'm a woman. What's going to happen is that statement that she is a woman is going to resonate true with her subconscious, with her body's intelligence, as her body knows that she's in a woman's body. Therefore, because she made a statement that's true to the subconscious, the field around her body becomes strong. Because the field around her body, the electrical magnetic field becomes stronger, her muscles become stronger as a result. So if she says, woman, and pulls out her arm, I'm a woman, it's going to be difficult for me to put down her arm because her arm will be strong. Conversely, if she says, I'm a man, that statement resonates false to her subconscious. And so the field around her will become weak, and therefore her muscles will go weak. And so if she says, I'm a man, it's easier for me to push down the arm. Her muscles in her arm actually become weaker. And so you can check your own subconscious or someone else's subconscious by making statements and checking the strength of your muscles. And it's interesting to notice, your arm down for a second. If you go to the gym, you can do a little experiment. You ever notice at the gym when people are lifting heavy weights, their friends are around going, yeah, push it, and you can do it. The reason being that those positive statements actually cause the field to go strong. And so if you go to the gym and you try to lift a weight, if you say yes as you're lifting, you're actually going to make your muscles strong. If you're saying no as you lift the weight, it's actually going to make your muscles weaker. And so if you want to see this for yourself, go to the gym, lift up some heavy weight, say yes, see how many times you can lift the weight, rest for 5 minutes, and try it again, saying no. Because when you're saying yes, that's true to the subconscious, the field around us becomes stronger and all of our muscles are strong. When you're saying no, the field will weaken and all of our muscles go weak. So do the arm lever test in a couple different ways. I want you to go ahead and pull your arm out to the front. This is a different way of doing the test. Say, I'm a woman. I'm a man. All right. And so that's an example of doing the arm lever test to the front. So this test we're going to show you is another version of strength testing. The arm lever test, you'll notice, is something you pretty much need a partner for. You have to have 2 people to do it. It doesn't really work to push on your own arm. Next test we're going to show you, though, you can either do with a partner or on your own. This is known as the finger ring test. And so the finger ring test, make a ring with your finger. Basically, you're going to your thumb and your first finger and make a ring. And then you're going to make statements and check the ring by pushing on it. If you make a statement that resonates true with your subconscious, the feel around the body will become strong and the finger muscles will be strong and the ring will hold. If you make a statement that resonates false to the subconscious, feel will, and then the ring will open. This test is actually easier to do on a person and make a ring fingers. And so your ring, I'm going to pull with the same strength every time. She's going to hold with the same strength every time. And so usually when we do this test, we'll want to start by calibrating and say, I'm a woman.
I'm a woman.
Now say, I'm a man.
I'm a man.
Hold a little bit weaker. Let's say weaker on your grip.
I'm a woman.
And say, no.
I'm a man.
So you'll notice, you watch the fingers carefully. She said, I am not able to pull the fingers apart. It stays together. When she says, I'm a man, I'm pulling with the same amount of strength. She's holding with the same amount of strength. But when she says, I am a man, it opens. Why? Because the true statements to the subconscious strengthen the field, our muscles become stronger. The statements that are false to the subconscious cause the field to weaken, and therefore the muscles go weak. And so let's try this one more time. The way I like to hold when I do the muscle test is when finger ring, I like to my middle finger and my thumb around, hold like that, and take on the other side, the middle finger and hold two sides of her finger. And so I'm pulling apart like this. So this is the finger ring test, pulling on the fingers. You can also do the finger ring test on your own, or you're pulling on your own fingers. But this does take a little bit in your practice. If you want to learn it, just make a ring with your fingers, the fingers of your other hand, and try to push it over. Next, we're going to talk about pendulum testing. So you relax. When we do pendulum testing, what we're doing is using a weight on a chain or a string to hold in our, that's a pendulum. And I've got an example of a pendulum right here. And so pendulum is basically weight on a string. So this would be an example of a pendulum. And the way a pendulum works is the pendulum is sensitive to the energy of our field. And so if I hold a pendulum in front of me, I hold it straight and I let go of it, it's going to be pretty much sitting still. If I hold the pendulum, say I'm, and I let go of it, you'll notice that the pendulum starts to swing clockwise direction. It starts to make a circle in it, clockwise direction. That's how the pendulum says yes. If I hold the chain, say I'm, and let go, you'll notice the pendulum starts moving in a counterclockwise direction. That means no. And so by holding a pendulum, you can make statements, and by seeing which way the pendulum moves, muscle test that statement and see if it's true or false to your own subconscious. Now, some people have pendulums move differently. For some people, a yes result goes forwards and backwards, and a no goes side to side. For some people, a yes result will go in a circle, and a no result will go forwards and backwards. Everybody and every pendulum is a little bit different. So you can play with that on your own. And also a pendulum needs to get you to know you a little bit. And so if you get a pendulum and it's not working great for you right away, keep practicing. A couple minutes a day before a week or two. You'll find that the pendulum will start to work well. And so that's something you want to try. Last version of the test we're going to show you today is actually my personal favorite. This is the one that I use most of my clients and students. This is called the standing version of the muscle test. The standing test is really a wonderful test for a lot of different reasons. Number one, most important reason why I love the standing test and why I use it with all my demonstrations, classes, and most of my private sector clients as well, is because the standing test is the one form of muscle testing pretty much everybody can do right away without needing any training or practice. It's very simple and fast to learn. And so when we do this muscle test, what we're doing is basically turning the whole body into a pendulum ladder. And so when we do this muscle test, we stand up and we make statements, and the body will actually move forwards or backwards, depending on whether or not those statements are resonating true or false to the subconscious mind with the body's intelligence. And so when we do the standing test, the first important thing to note is that you want to stand facing north. And so north is very important. If you're not facing north, the test will actually still work, but you won't get a result that's as clear or as strong. And so, possible, try to line yourself up facing magnetic north. When you're doing the standing test, the more closely you can be aligned with magnetic north, the faster and easier and clearer this test is. All right. So look at how the standing test works. Basically, we will have one stand up and face to the north. In this direction, north is looking straight ahead that way. And so make statements from this position. You resonate true to your own subconscious. The field around the body will strengthen and it will actually tilt or pull you forwards towards. When you make a statement that resonates false with the subconscious, the field weak and it will actually tilt or push you towards the south. And so the standing test for most people is very easy to do, but I'm going to show you some details about how to do it really precisely. And this is really helpful because most people can do this just from what I've told you so far. But if you look at all the different details and get the details right, pretty much everybody can do this. So the first detail I'm going to show you when we do the standing test is the position of the feet. And so when we do the muscle test, if you look at her feet, you'll notice that the feet are a little bit narrower than shoulder width apart. That's important. We want to have, for most people, a little narrower than shoulder width apart. You'll also notice that her toes are pointed straight forward. So there's no bend in the toes. If the toes are open in what you might call a duck toe position, where they're pointing to the outside, that will actually cause your balance point to shift forwards. If your toes are closed, this will cause the balance point to move forward. We're going to come back to that, talk about that more in a couple of minutes. But for most people, this will test best. The toes pointed straight forward, a little bit narrower than shoulder apart. And so feet, the next thing we want to look at is the position of the body. You want to make sure that when you're doing the standing test, you're standing very tall and straight. You don't want to be slouched over. You don't want to be crouched down. You don't want to have any bend in the knees. And so it's important that your legs are very straight, that the knees are straight. However, you don't want to lock tight. You don't want to be tensing your muscles to try to make your legs tighter. So the legs are straight with no bend in the knee, but you're also not tensing up the muscles as straight as you can in a relaxed posture. And so the legs are very straight. And you'll notice that the upper body and the head, we're also standing very much upright. So we're standing as tall and straight as we can without tensing or straining, pulling with the muscles. Feeling you want to have with the standing test is you want to feel like you're floating on top of your legs. The legs should feel like two straight supports, like two stilts, that the upper body and our head kind of floats on top of. And this floating feeling is so important because, again, what we're working with here is subtle magnetism. When the magnetic field around her body strengthens, it will subtly tilt her forward. When the magnetic field weakens, it will subtly tilt her backwards. If you're crouched down into a strong stance, you're going to be in such a strong stance, you're not going to feel this subtle push and pull of the magnetism. And so that's why we want to stand up very tall and straight and feel like you're floating on top of your legs. When you have that balance floating, that's going to make you maximally sensitive to the subtle push and pull of the magnetic forces, and it will be much easier to feel it. And so it's very important that you stand upright with the legs straight and tall, comfortable posture so that you feel like you're floating and you're going to move very easily. So let's do a couple of tests. First, we'll have you face straight on it. Go ahead and say,
I'm a man.
and you'll notice how she starts to tilt or fall backwards. Now go to the middle and say,
I'm a woman.
excellent. So you can see on the true statements, the statements that resonate true with the subconscious, the field strengthens and tilts or pushes you forward. As you turn and face that way, and from the side, go ahead and say, I'm
a man.
actually, let's move.
I'm a woman.
And so it's that there's two major ways that people will to the muscle hips. Most people will actually tilt or fall forward. That's what's happening here with Leanne. Her whole body is tilting or falling forward. That's the most common way that people do this test. There's another way that a lot of people experience this test, which doesn't involve actually falling forward as much. What you may feel is a subtle push forwards or backwards around the center of your body. You may feel like there's a little magnetic thing pushing in the small of your back. And so feel that it's like a little push in your back or your hips forwards or backwards, and you're not tilting or falling. That's okay. And so I want to go back and talk about the toe position a little bit more. So why don't you face the camera? And so people, when they do this test best with their feet lined up straight forward. However, the position of the toes is actually something that we can adjust and work with in case people feel they're getting a stronger forward or a stronger backwards. And so when you teach people, you want to start first with the toes straight forward and have them test, I am a man, I'm a woman. When true statement, they should go forward. When they make the false statement, they should go backwards. Sometimes what people will experience is that the forward may be very strong and the backwards is very weak, or vice versa. The backwards is really strong and the forward is very weak. And so if you're working with someone or yourself and you feel there's a difference in strength between the forwards and the backwards, we can adjust the toe position to shift the balance point to make them the same. And so, you're going to test, we're going to have you make a true statement, but you're barely going to move forward. So if you said, I am a woman, and barely move forward.
I'm a woman.
So you may say, well, I can feel, but I'm barely moving. And I may then have you check, I am a man, and you may just fall way backwards and go way back. And so if there's a difference in strength, or then go to adjust the toe position to shift the balance point so it's the same. So basically, when the toes are pointing together, when we're at a pigeon toe position, that will shift the balance point forward, make it easier for you to go forward. When the toes are in a duck toe position, when they're open, that shifts the balance point forwards and makes it easier to go backwards. And so, for example, she's going much stronger backwards than forwards. And so you will adjust her toes and have her go to a pigeon toe position to where the toes are pointing together. So go ahead and bring the toes together, and you can see there the toes are built together. When we do the test again, she will go more strongly forward and more weakly backwards because we've shifted the balance point. In the opposite example, let's say there's a case where you test somebody and their forward is very strong and their backwards is very weak. And so if it's that, and the forward is very strong and the backward is weak, we're going to do just the opposite. We're going to have them open their toes into a duck toe position to push the balance point backwards. So go ahead and open your toes into the duck toe position. And so you can see there, in order to move the balance point backwards, we have the toes open. And so forward will be weaker and the backwards will be stronger. And so this is a really important refinement to this technique. And by adjusting the toe position, you can find for each person kind of the ideal angle of the toes that makes their forward test and their backwards test about the same strength. And so again, for most people, I'd say in my experience, about 80% of the people I work with are going to test best with the toes straight forward. The rest, the other 20%, some of them will have to toe and some of them will have to duck. And you'll be able to adjust that balance point and find exactly the right test for every time. All right. So now you've seen 4 different types of muscle testing. I encourage you to test them on your own. Now we're going to talk about troubleshooting. What you're going to find is, especially with this test, most people go right away. We'll need anything further and go through the instructions we gave you already. I'd say 90% of people be able to muscle test and do this right away with people. However, sometimes you'll have people with trouble. That's what we're going to talk about. What do you do when it doesn't work? So here's the first thing, and this will resolve most of your problems with muscle testing. What you need to know is that muscle testing does not work as well if you're dehydrated. And so if you're dehydrated, you're going to have trouble muscle testing. And so if you're having any trouble with this, the first thing you should do is go drink a big glass of water, get yourself hydrated. Most people, once they start being hydrated, the muscle testing will start working immediately. This works like magic. Sometimes I work with clients where I need to have them drink 2 or 3 or even 4 glasses of water. But almost everyone, if you start to get hydrated there, will start to muscle test. The most important thing to know about muscle testing is simply to whoever you're testing hydrated, and they'll start to test more accurately. The second thing is important to know about muscle testing is you might have trouble muscle testing if you're demineralized, meaning there aren't enough minerals in your body. A lot of you watching this video already know you have a lot of problems with the food supply in the modern world. Almost all of the minerals have been depleted out of the soil. So very few of us are actually getting enough minerals in our diet from it. And one of the side effects of not having enough minerals in your body, muscle testing can be. Why is it? Well, muscle testing is an electrical phenomenon. It works based on electricity moving through the body. The way that electricity moves through the body is in minerals suspended in water. Therefore, if you're not well hydrated or you're not well mineralized, you may have trouble muscle testing because if you don't have enough water, or you don't have enough minerals in your body, it's more difficult for the electricity to flow. And so you won't get your results with the muscle testing. So after getting well hydrated, the next thing you might try is things. Personally, I like to use ionic form minerals, and I see because in my personal experience, I have found they absorb, they work better. But you can talk to your own doctor or nutritionist and find the mineral supplement that works right for you. So the mineral supplement help you to muscle more easily, faster. And so get hydrated and drink minerals. So if you're still having trouble muscle testing, I'm going to show you several other troubleshooting techniques. The first is a hydration technique. Basically, you hold your hands on your kidneys for about 30 seconds. This will, gentle pressure on the kidneys will stimulate hydration through the body. And this can be a very effective technique to help people muscle test more easily, more accurately. So this, take your hands and put them on the kidneys, which for most people are about where the lowest rib is, towards the center of the tongue. And so hold your hands on your kidneys for about 30 seconds. And this gentle pressure on the kidneys will stimulate hydration through the body. If you drink a bunch of water, if you're still not tested, try this next. Try putting the hands on the kidneys for 30 seconds and then zip up your fuel and try again. You'll be surprised how often this works and people are able to start muscle testing after doing this for about 30 seconds. However, I will caution you that this technique does not actually hydrate the body. It just helps the body to recognize hydration for a short time. And so if you put your hands on your kidneys and you're able to muscle test for the next 15, 20, 30 minutes, and then it stops working, you may have to do this again. So don't if you have to redo this technique every 15, 20, maybe 30 minutes to muscle testing accurate. Other things you can, in addition to hands on your kidneys, there's 2 points at the base of the skull. To do this, we're in our bones. Put gentle pressure on the little ridge of bone down about where our ears meet our skull. So you can reach and feel that with your thumbs and gentle pressure there for about 20 or 30 seconds. By doing this, this will help to hydrate the body. Your muscle tests come more easily, more accurately, and more quickly. And so, more techniques already for troubleshooting. Water, minerals, pressure on the kidneys, pressure behind the ears. If you're still not working, there's a couple of things you can try. The first thing you want to look for is you want to make sure that the person who's doing the muscle testing is not crossing their body. And so if you have your legs crossed or have your arms crossed in front of you, can actually interfere with the muscle test. You may not get a good result. So each person is not crossed. Additionally, if you're doing a mirroring test, you don't want to sit in front of someone. You want to move off to the side just a little bit. You don't want to have your center line directly in front of their center line. You want to move off to the side a little. And so if I muscle tested by someone, I would not have them directly in front of me. I would have them off to the side a little bit. So that may help too. In addition, if you want to look at your body, make sure you don't have a big chunk of metal across the center line of the body. Now, for most people, most belt buckles are not a problem. Having a belt buckle like this, which just has a loop of metal, will generally not cause an issue. But if you have a big metal belt buckle along the center line of your body, that piece of metal may interfere with the muscle testing. So might want to take off a belt buckle or at least push it off to the side while you're doing the muscle testing and make a better result. Okay? Some people will also say that taking a pinch of salt can help to stimulate hydration for the body and allow you to muscle test more easily. But personally, I generally don't use this because I'm not a doctor. Don't want to make people been told anyone that has high blood pressure should not be eating salt. And so you might try it on your own. A lot of people have found that it helps. Again, may or may not be necessary for you. The last thing we're going to talk about is when we're working with muscle testing. You will occasionally be muscle testing an area that has very powerful magnetic fields. For example, if you live right next to an electrical generating facility, what happens is powerful electrical fields will interact with your body's own field and mess up the muscle test. And so if you know that you live in an area with strong magnetic fields, you might try and move somewhere else to do your muscle test. Because when you're in this very strong field, you may not be able to capture your result. However, I want to emphasize also, all of these troubleshooting techniques only need to be applied if someone's having trouble testing. And so if someone's testing clearly and easily and quickly, and they have a big metal belt buckle and they're dehydrated, demineralized, that's okay if they're testing. All these techniques are for if you're not testing. In my experience, many practitioners have tried muscle testing, gotten frustrated with the problem sometimes. Learning all these troubleshooting techniques and applying, honestly don't remember the last time I worked with someone who could muscle test. You do all these things, hydrate, mineralize, pressure on the kidneys, the pressure on the bones of the skull, to zip up the field. I'm confident that you're going to find accurately and easily every time. There's also a skill. And so you will also find if you're able to do this on a regular basis, you're going to get better at it. The hydration and the minerals and the rest of that become less important. So keep practicing. Really works. You do all these things. It will work for you too. So now you've seen 4 different ways of muscle testing. Some you can do on your own. Some you can do with a partner. Start using these right away. I did want to mention a couple of things about the advantages and disadvantages of each of the kinds of tests. As I mentioned earlier, the standing test is actually my favorite. That's what I use most of the time. The advantages of the standing test are, 1, it's a test that you can do right away without needing training or practice. Pretty much everybody, if you go through the troubleshooting aspect that we just talked about, can do the muscle test right away with a standing. Secondly, the standing method has the advantage that there's no second person involved. That's really cool for a number of reasons. Number 1, if we're doing a strength test like the arm lever, it's often very difficult to feel the difference between your arm going weak and someone just pushing harder. And so there is potential for people using strength tests to cheat or influence the test. And so by doing the standing method, you'll know that you're getting an accurate test because you know that there's no second person who might be trying to influence it to make your answer go one way. In addition, if you're doing a technique like healing technique, if I need to muscle test someone in person using a physical test, they have to come to me to do our healing session. That can be very inconvenient, especially if they live in a different part of the world. As a healer, I do almost all of my work over the phone, which means that my clients have to be able to muscle test themselves. And so by the standing method, they can do it right away, and I don't need to be physically present to do it for them. The other advantage of the standing test, because it doesn't need another person, and because you can learn it right away, is that you who have now watched this video, you can go and use the standing test starting right now, and you will have a tool to look inside your own subconscious and find out what's inside your own subconscious for the whole rest of your life. And that is a profoundly powerful thing to know if you choose to use it. However, there's definitely a time and place for the other tests as well. Almost everyone can do the standing test right away, especially if you go through the troubleshooting techniques. However, every now and then you may run into someone who has trouble with it, in which case I would recommend one of the other tests. One of the advantages of doing the finger ring test is that once you learn how to do that on yourself, it's a very easy test. And so if you want to learn to do the finger ring test, What I would recommend is practice on yourself a little bit every day. Practice just 3 or 4 minutes every day doing your own finger ring test. I would say for most people within 2 to 3 weeks, you're going to be able to start to feel you're getting good results. And so an advantage of the finger ring test is you can test yourself when you're riding in a car or sitting down on a plane or anywhere you're sitting down. You don't have to be standing. Additionally, you can learn to finger ring test yourself, but you can also do it with a partner like I demonstrated before. And so most people practicing with a partner and having someone pull on their fingers, that can sometimes be easier than doing the standing test. And so some of the time you may prefer to do the finger ring test, especially if you learn to test yourself. But again, most people need to practice for a couple of weeks before they're able to do the finger ring test on themselves. The next test, the pendulum test, is a lot of fun, especially because you get to play with pendulums. And so pendulums, I think they're a lot of fun. And so if you like pendulums, I would encourage you, go make a pendulum or buy one, find one you like. Practice with it a couple of minutes every day. You're going to learn the way it moves for you. And within a week or two, you're probably going to be getting very clear, very accurate tests. The last test we showed you, which is the arm lever test, isn't one I use very often, but it actually has a few advantages, namely that it makes a great demonstration. And so if you're talking in front of a group of people, if you have someone holding out their arm, it's very easy to see. It's also very easy to learn to do with a partner. So most people, you just go grab a friend or someone in your family. If you go and practice the arm lever test, you should be able to do it right away with a lot of practice. So you have weeks, they're all useful, they're all valuable. And just be aware that some people have a stronger affinity for one technique than another. So you may find standing test is really easy for you and works great, but you may have trouble with pendulums, or you may be just the opposite, or maybe you'll find that you really like the finger ring test. Try them all, play with them, make them your own, and you'll find the test that works best for you. So at this point, you're probably wondering, okay, now that I know how to muscle test, it's really awesome that I can ask questions of my own subconscious to find out what's inside of what's been creating and attracting all these experiences in my life that I want to change. What then? Well, obviously, muscle testing alone is not enough to make dramatic shifts in your life. But muscle testing combined with other practices can be really, really cool. The technique that I use, theta healing, is a really powerful system that is designed to go into the subconscious mind and to reprogram the subconscious, to release old traumas and negative belief systems, and to bring in higher understandings, better perspectives, positive programming into the subconscious. So that, for example, if you muscle test true to the program, I'd have to be poor to be close to God. When you muscle test that, you will know that you have something inside your subconscious that's making it hard for you to make. But without another technique, you're not going to be able to change that immediately. With the technique of very quickly make the shifts in the subconscious. By shifting to a theta brainwave and accessing the subconscious mind, we can reprogram it. And you would then recheck the muscle test. I have to be poor to be close to God. It would be the opposite. It would say no. And so that's the technique I'm familiar with. It's the most powerful, the easiest, and the most effective way to change the subconscious is theta healing. But of course, it's not the only way. Our own life experiences will also change our subconscious. Saying affirmations and mantras will also change our subconscious. One technique I've seen people use is that anytime they have a negative thought, they snap themselves on their wrist with a rubber band to create an association of pain with a negative thought. That could also work to change the subconscious. Personally, I wouldn't do it because there's no need for me to snap myself with a rubber band when there's better things like theta healing. And so using muscle testing, you can peer inside your own subconscious and find out exactly what's in there and learn to discover why things happen in your life. But you're going to need to go beyond that to actually make those changes. And so I would encourage you, go with wherever you feel guided, find the technique that works for you. Personally, I think this really encourage you, learn to use muscle testing. Just this. Muscle testing is a skill. The more you practice this, the better you will get at it. It will get very easy and very. And if you get into the habit of using it, you can start to identify exactly what inside you is causing the problems in your life. And that's the first step to change it and truly living the lives of your dreams. Thank you for joining me today. Go forward.